Welcome to the Vitality Coach Podcast with the Mojo Maker and host Nikki Fogden-Moore, the Vitality Expert. Dedicated to helping you be the CEO of your business and your life with special industry and life-leading guests, top tips on how you could create that magical blend of healthy, wealthy, and wise for CEOs, entrepreneurs, founders, and people who do things with life.
So you're here with Coach Nikki Fogden-Moore. Sam Coward, what is going on with the royal wedding fiasco? I'm going to call it a fiasco because Dad's taking her up the aisle, not taking her up the aisle. Mum's doing this. Mum's crazy. She's arrived. She got picked up from the airport. Everyone's cared. The sister's a nutter. Everything's gone nuts. And no one really cares, I don't believe, at their core, but they pretend to really, really care.
Well, I think it's a great deflection from what you have to think about with your own stuff. And I don't know about you, but I've been getting a lot of SOS phone calls from a lot of friends of mine going, help. And this social media madness and media madness is we're just so busy watching Generation Exhibition that people are forgetting just to have fun in their own lives. So I think we should reverse it and go, you know, what is your royal day going to look like tomorrow? And I think that mental health issue about being bombarded with media all the time and comparison and judgment is just getting out of control.
So are you saying in a nutshell, there's some escapism here? There are people who are actually going, my life's crappy. I haven't read a fairy tale in a long time. Here's a real life one happening over in London. I'm going to escape into that world so I don't have to face the fact that my kids are brats, my husband's cheating on me, life is fairly ordinary, I'm overweight, and I don't have money to pay my bills.
Well, I mean, I think you've just condensed most people's problems into 20 seconds. And this is why we did the coach, right? We wanted to give real issues with what's going on and a lot of topics on how you can navigate your way out of it. And the royal wedding is just, whether you love it or hate it, it's going on and we're bombarded everywhere. It's like people do not have a choice anymore with what they're watching. So the biggest thing is how do you find some calm in all this chaos? And I also think we spoke about mental health and it's not just, it's a dude thing too. Like nobody wants to put their hand up and say, I'm just boycotting this. I don't really want to watch it. There's a lot of pressure for everyone to know what's going on.
Well, the whole mental health stuff with dudes is a dirty word too, though. You know, and I know the best efforts of, Julia Gillard and people from Beyond Blue are doing everything they can to try and fix it, but it ain't fixed. Dudes still feel, and I still feel, that if you put your hand up and say, I'm depressed or whatever, you're looked at by, in particular, other dudes as a pussy. You're weak. You're vulnerable, and vulnerability and weakness are not okay in our society still. We're meant to be the protectors, the providers, and the men.
Yeah, the roll your sleeves up, the blokey bloke.
I still think that's a big part of what's
going on. I
reckon
reckon that's what our first episode together we should focus on. It's not, are you okay? It's what do you do if you're not? And let's break through the second cycle of that wonderful campaign.
Awesome.
It's like, if you're not okay, you and me dedicated to no BS, no clutter, no fluffiness. We made that promise and complete honesty.
Yep.
You have 2 a.m. mornings where you wake up in a cold sweat.
Yep.
And it's not because there's some things going on unmentionable, because this could be a morning show.
Could be. Definitely not the unmentionables, because we couldn't mention them.
Right. And this is not just the tip. We want to give people a little bit more, right? We want to give them some real substance.
You said it was unmentionable, Nikki. If you're saying just the tip. But, I mean, I think a lot of people do want the tip. And sometimes a lot more. But just the tip is a good start. Because sometimes understanding where people are going and understanding, as you said, real tools is actually what's important. Because for me, if you would ask me right now, are you okay?
But, hey, Sam, are you okay?
Nah.
Right. So, and my response would be, do you want to just sit for a few minutes and talk about it?
Maybe. But this is the point. So that question there is absolutely the thing. We're sloganismed into the belief that if we ask, are you okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
But then what?
What's next?
I would have no idea. I would not have the foggiest clue what to do.
Foggiest. Nicely done.
Nikki Foggy. I wouldn't have the foggiest as to what to respond with if someone said no. If someone needed talking down from the edge, my natural instinct and my reaction is comedy. I'd try and make them laugh. I'd take the piss. And that's not the way to do it. I'm sure that's not the right way because they'd probably end up killing themselves and I'd have to live with that.
And I think there's another thing is that people, it's quite a big responsibility. If there's someone in your work or your family or a friend that says, no, I'm not okay, all of a sudden you're like, what am I going to do next? The first thing is just to go, okay, thanks for sharing that. And then to know that you don't have to have all the answers. But you just have to acknowledge that that person was heard. That's the first and foremost thing. And it's not all of a sudden your responsibility to come up with a checklist. But I do think it's our responsibility on the show to have these discussions. Why do you think that vulnerability is such a dirty word for men. Why do you think, even though it's out there in the media and the black dog or the raven on the bedpost and all these other things, why do you think we all know that we need to talk about it? But what do you think stops people from talking about it?
I think it's history. I think we've seen, as a culture, and Australia's a very young culture, 200 years young, but there's still that attitude that the men provide. The men are the breadwinners. There's still an essence of that. I think we've gone a long way to improve things, but I still think there's a vibe out there that the men go out, they sweat, they do the heavy lifting, they bring home the money for the family, and then there's that responsibility to be strong through everything, to protect the family from danger, to protect the family from financial burden, to keep the roof over the head. And I think there's still that base kind of core pressure that exists there to do that.
Yeah.
And everything else at the moment's a little bit window dressing. It's a little bit surface level stuff and superficial to say, oh, no, but you've got feelings too and you're allowed to shave your legs. It's fine. Mammals do it and they ride bikes. Everyone's cool with that. Do you know what I mean? But I think there's still a big element and a big percentage and a big core pull on people to say, I still need to be the protector and provider for my family.
Yeah. And what does it feel like when you actually know that things are a little bit on the rocky road? You just push it down because you got to get up in the morning, you got to put on a brave face and you're responsible. I think the word is responsibility. We all feel this innate sense of responsibility and to, one foot in front of the other. And at a certain point, you'll hit a fork in the road and you just might not be able to get up one morning. You'll start making bad decisions or it'll affect you physically, emotionally, you'll have collateral damage. So if you and I can help people before they get to collateral damage, let's talk about some simple ways. Men talk side by side, women love to talk face to face. So the best way is to be active in doing something and then to not try and make the language just your language. You don't have to have it in some certain way. I think it's really important too.
I think this will be fun. I think you and I can start uncovering some stuff because you're clearly highly versed in this world and I'm clearly not. But I'm interested enough to ask the right questions. Plus, I think I've got enough world stuff going on to be able to say, this is what I think, this is what feels good, and I'll do it without clutter. I think I'll do it. I get to the chase of things pretty quickly because I don't. No one's got time to fluff.
No.
I'm not interested in fluff. I'm more interested in, I'm a cynic. I'm a skeptic. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in bullshit, and I don't believe in coaches. Sorry.
No, but I love that.
That's why we are coach.
That's exactly why we're coach. It's the antithesis of everything you think a coach is.
Reinvention.
It is a reinvention.
Rebirth.
Yeah, and I think I love that. And we made it a promise. Why did we bring up this topic as our first episode? Remember, before we got on air, we're like, we're going to choose one thing that is always pushed gently to the side.
Yeah, because taboos are fun to prick and poke at.
There it goes again, the same word.
It's
a family show. But, okay, so let's be practical. Everyone's listening to this. They're like, those two clowns, they're on their own show. They're creating a podcast. Great. We promised we'd give people 3 tips.
Yep, okay.
So what would you say, how can we add the most value to listeners? I mean, we can jiggle and dance, but the most important thing is if you are, what does it feel like if you're overwhelmed? What does it feel like for you when you're overwhelmed? When's the last time you were like, holy heck, this is a little bit more than I bargained for?
Okay, so the physical sensations I get is I get hot. I actually feel hot and I can feel my face starting to burn. I feel lightheaded. I feel like I'm starting to lose control of things and get a bit spinny. And then the next thing is I look for the path of least resistance. So for me, I look at how do I get out of this? Oh, I'll deflect. I'll go and do something else. I'll pretend I'm interested in the royal wedding for 20 minutes because then it'll bury everything that's building up behind me, and I can kind of have a bit of a meditative process into something else. They're the sort of 3 physical symptoms that I experience when I'm overwhelmed. And generally speaking, if you hold your breath long enough, you either pass out or you come through the other side and go, oh, I'm still alive. Now I need to look at steps that I need to address to correct this. That's the physical representation for me.
So that's your survival mode moment. You're like,
is it?
Yeah. So basically when it's fight or flight. But the problem is, we were talking about this before, is that people are living constantly in highs and lows. They're like, oh my God, this is terrible. Oh my God, this is amazing. There's no kind of sustainable blend where they're like, oh yeah, I knew something was going to go wrong, or I'm prepared for that. We don't trust our experience anymore, and we also don't ask for help. Because as you say, there's so many coaches, there's so many financial advisors. We're being told to tick this and follow that and apply here, but who are we really trusting?
Do you think blokes in particular don't ask for help? Do you find in your experience?
I mean, I think anyone these days doesn't ask for it. I think the way in which we ask for help might be different, and I definitely think there's a real resistance, especially once you've got a business or you have a job, a responsibility, and a family. You asking for help is seen as a massive vulnerability.
Yeah.
and it's seen that you can't do your job. But really, great people have great teams around them, and you want the experts. You want to be able to ask the right questions, but you want experts in your corner, your dream team, your pit crew, I like to call it. So it's like life's like a rally. It happens in all conditions, all terrains, any day of the year. That's why I love rally analogies. You know, it's not Formula One. You don't get up in a fancy suit and get off in a race car and have a few stops along the way. It is everything. It is rain, hail, shine, gravel, tarmac. And you got to decide who your co-pilot is. So the first thing is great communication with your co-pilot. And if you don't have a partner, then who's your great friend, or who is someone? We all need someone that we can have an open, honest conversation with.
You've got to have that person, hey. And then, look, it
Gotta
does.
have it.
Yeah. I hear that because I've got a mate who I catch up with probably once every 6 months.
Is that the imaginary friend or
No,
the real one?
this is a real friend. He's real. He's a real boy. But we sit down and have coffee once every 6 months. He lives in Sydney, and when we do catch up, it's like we've never parted. You know those special friendships?
Yeah, I've got one of those. Kiki, if you're listening.
Yeah,
Amsterdam.
You lie down in traffic for them. You really would.
Yeah.
But you don't need to be on the phone to them every 5 minutes. Literally, we speak and communicate 2-3 times a year max. But when we do, we solve all the problems of the world. And
Brother from another mother.
We are there to download. We are there to download. And we take turns. You know, one trip it'll be him, next trip it'll be me. And it'll just be blah. And you just purge sort of 6 to 12 months worth of stuff. And you know what? He doesn't have all the answers. But the fact that he's been able to do that, rocking.
There you go. And I think that's the fundamental first thing is you don't need to have all the answers, but you have to get it out of your head and out. That's the most, you can't push it down. So there's a real difference. Let's talk a little bit about ego. There's the little ego, little e, and the big ego. So your ego is not your amigo. So all the conversations in your head, all this kind of negotiation and these kind of social constraints we put on ourselves, they're just words. It's not reality. You've got to have a strong GPS. And because of all the bombardment of marketing, we're told we should look a certain way. You know, Kardashian, you know, every bloke has to turn up with a fancy ute and his sleeves rolled up and a 4x2 over his shoulder and whatever else is going on advertising. There's a huge amount of subliminal pressure now for people. You know, whether you're a musician or you're a lawyer or a radio announcer, you've got to turn up a certain way. And I think you're on our, you know, we decided that we'd help people get back to their grassroots. Like, what does great look like for you?
And what does good feel like?
Yeah.
Do you know, I think it's been a long time a lot of people have forgotten. You know,
Yeah.
I to be perfectly frank, I couldn't tell you when the last time was I felt fantastic. You know?
Well, we're going to have to solve that.
I'm being honest. Like I felt good a lot, and there's a lot of good in my life. And people look at you and go, "Oh, your life's amazing. Aren't you lucky?" And I go, "Yeah, I am lucky, and I'm very grateful for everything I have. I have a beautiful family, and I am. But do you know what? There's warts and all in my life, just like everybody's. And I honestly can't say that I feel fantastic when I get up in the morning. You know, I have pains, I have problems, I have challenges and anxieties like a lot of people. But I don't have the answers or the solutions to fix them either. So maybe part of this process is you helping me.
Well, I think part of our show is to, did you have like eerie music?
We should.
But part of this process is to let people that are listening go, oh, I just feel just exactly like that. Like just because you and I are behind microphones in a radio station right now, just because you're watching the royal wedding, everybody else suffers from the same kinds of anxieties at different levels. It's all relative.
Yeah.
So you are not alone in what you're going through, but nobody really can find a decluttered way to get support fast. So that's our mission, right?
So how are we doing this? Are we going to do it every week?
Yeah, I reckon we're going to do our top tips on the Sunday show. Thank you for inviting me for that.
That'll be fun.
What time is that?
So 6 a.m. till 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning. NFM, Nikki Fogden-Moore, so famous that she's got an abbreviated name. She's got an acronym. She's been acronymized. We're going to do a session each week, which will be cool. And then beyond that, our podcast series is going to be how does the podcast release work?
It'll be on. I'll just whack it on the Mojo Maker Show at the moment, and it'll come out. And then I think what we'll do is everything will be on iTunes and Spotify. We'll pop it out through the Facebook channels, and most importantly, Sam, we just have to get this content ready so that we can start sharing. We want those questions in too. You know, we're lucky enough to already have a couple of questions from people that we preluded what we're doing, and because they know that you and I know nonsense. We made a commitment for it to be honest, real, and real time.
Yep. And I think that's important too because things change, times change, attitudes change. You know, the royal wedding's tomorrow. And so once that passes, you know, there'll be a lot of people lost and not knowing what to do or who to turn to.
Well, maybe we could do our own version.
We'll still be here.
Yeah, we will be. So let's come back to what are we going to do with this episode that really makes it amazing? And I think the one thing that we got distracted with is wondering what, when we really can just talk about the how. So if you're really listening to this and you're like Sam and you're waking up and you're in a hot sweat and your heart's palpitating and you're feeling a little bit nauseous and over-caffeinated, the most important thing is go dial a friend. Ask for help is not a bad thing. Vulnerability is not a negative thing. It doesn't mean that you have to come out and sell your Ferrari and become a Buddhist monk. It just says recognizing that things are not okay is the biggest strength you can ever do in your life. The second thing is accountability. So I like to do an A and B column. On the A column, it's what's really going right. What is scaring the heck out of you at the moment? Write that down. Is it finance, bill payments? You don't know what your teenage daughter's doing. You're afraid of your relationship, whatever it is. Whatever is in your head, that big E ego, get that down on paper. And on the right-hand side, assign facts and stats.
I love that.
It's my biggest advice. So take stop with the stories and stick to facts and stats. Think like a CEO, plan like a visionary, act like a Buddha.
Oh, I love that. That's cool.
We've got stickers. We should give stickers
That
to
is
everyone
cool.
too.
I've got one too. And if all else fails, my strategy is, even though it's freezing cold right now, strip off down to your undies and run into the ocean.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter if you've got a towel or not. Who cares? Things get wet.
Exactly.
Just do it, because the invigoration from the salt water, I can't explain. I did it last winter, and it just reminded me, because it's cold again, that I was having a crappy day and I had that flush feeling and I was feeling a bit stressy and I didn't know what to do, and I was at my little bar, parked the car, and I went, you know what? The water looks magic. It was a sunny day, it was beautiful, but cold. And I went, this is going to be awkward, but I'm doing it anyway. So I stripped down to my jocks and tore out, the in between the Lure the View and sort of Gloria Jean's section of the beach with a few rocks.
Where most of the public was sitting at that moment. Yep.
Boom, straight out, and it was freezing. It was that moment where it hits your ghoulies and it takes your breath away, and then you're out and you're under. But the minute you're under and then you're out and you're standing glistening in the sun, everything washes away. There's a healing power in the salt water and
100%.
doing things you wouldn't normally do.
So that's an instant reboot. So what is the one thing? So whether or not you can have a quick shower or you can jump in the ocean, or if you're driving your car and you're feeling like this, just stop. Because you've just got to press reboot. So just like you can reset your iPhone, you can reset your attitude, and it is a matter of moments. And we're going to give people some tools on that too. Whether it's 5 deep breaths, a jump in the ocean, we do recommend you keep some item of clothing on.
Stayed my jocks.
Okay, fair enough. But also just get up from that moment where you're sitting, standing, doing, and change your environment for a split second. It will change your thinking. And the other thing is you're going to be okay. Not only are you there, but you've got us now. Your dream team.
Nice. Nikki Fogden-Moore, thank you so much. I'm Sam Coward. We are the coach. Hope you enjoyed our very first episode, and it's only going to change from here. But as you said, Nick, make sure you put in some messages. If there's something you'd like us to talk about, something you'd like us to address, there is no subject we won't touch.
Thanks for tuning in. As always, we'd love your review on iTunes, or you can jump online to thevitalitycoach.com.au for more from Nikki, to sign up for the Monday Mojo and the Vitality Coach TV on YouTube.